session right now. Okay. I'm looking for all right. So let's go to applied leadership. Okay, let me start with let me put it on the slideshow. Okay, let's start with module 2 of applied leadership in this specific year. And we are going to examine theoretical models of leadership at the moment. We wish to say the objective of this particular module is to help us understand leadership based on other theories on how leadership functions and how leadership works. So by the end of the day, we should come out with concepts of leadership that will help us to examine our own leadership styles. So, sorry, what did I do now? Did I click end slideshow? Let me go back. Sorry. All right. Oh my God, what? Just give me a second. Let me stop the share first. I noticed that, you know, when you're working in the load shedding, you end up, okay, screen share. Okay. Let's go. Okay, let me just start from the beginning and then I'll try. I'm not sure why it's taking me to the end of the slide. Okay, I'll try to be on a manual way. I'll try to use it on a manual way. I hope you can be able to see that, even though because it's failing to push in. I'm not sure what's the problem. Okay, so let's examine leadership in this context at this particular moment. Leadership is the process of influencing others to work hard to accomplish important tasks. The capacity of individual for leadership is revealed by the amount of influence he or she has over behavior or performance of other individuals. If the influence is significant, he can be an effective leader. But if the little on his little or no leadership ability. Number 2 on that, leadership should be a combination of persuasion, compulsion, and an example of all 3 elements are essential. Let's look at this diagram now. Theoretical effective, just a second. Theoretical effective leadership skills. Let's start by models of thinking, and I will go on that, which we call integrative thinking. Those of you who attended one course called Leadership Agility, you will remember when we spoke about integrative thinking. Now, integrative thinking should result us into leader effectiveness. But how do we get that integrative thinking? Then it helps us to get into decision making. Remember, integrative thinking, it's when our decisions are informed by our social intelligence. It's when it's influenced by our social intelligence. Okay, so somebody said, can you zoom a bit? Okay. You know, I'm trying to do that, but this thing is ending the slideshow whenever I start, and then it's cutting. So I'll try to see how I send the notes, because I'm failing to go to, when I go on to start, it's cutting. I don't know why. It seems it's the challenge. So that one looks to be a bit more difficult. So let me try to move in by stating to say, so integrative thinking is when your leadership analysis is built on the fact that you are able to use your social intelligence to make your decisions. Now, what is integrative thinking? Integrative thinking is a combination of skills which also does not just limit you to skills such as research. It's a skill. Skills such as investigation. It's a skill. Skills such as consultation. So all this will affect your decision making. So effective leaders, they don't just make decisions based on raw data. Okay? Remember, a question is asked in management. A question is asked in management, say, what is information? Therefore, information definition is always given as information is processed data. Information is given as processed data. Now, if information is processed data, it simply means leaders, before you take any decision, you must combine skills that helps you to get to integrative thinking, so that you are able to make decisions or informed decisions based on facts, not based on assumptions or just based on expectation. All right. Then we go to number 2 there. It's goal commitment. What is goal commitment there? Goal commitment as an effective leader, in goal setting, we speak about this thing where you set your goals, like, allow me to poke on the ladies in South Africa, not you there. You know, here where I stay in our area, we've got a gym. And some of you have seen that I like gym, those of you who follow me on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. So you find that in the beginning of the year, in January, February, the gym is full with women and ladies who have made their goals of losing weight. But the challenge that is there is not the goal. The challenge is the goal commitment. As an effective leader in your company or your organization, you have set goals. But what are the procedures that you have put in to make sure that you remain committed to the goal, to that big goal? So, as a good leader, not as a good leader, but let me say this, as a leader, you must have the ability to motivate your team. Goal commitment requires the ability to motivate. I want to welcome my good leader, Mr. Lafoy, who's with us today, and is going to share with us some few hints as he works around organizations and institutions when it comes to how the corporate works and looks at leadership. Now, let me speak about what we talked about last week, for example. When we spoke about positional leadership is when you are given a position at work or you are promoted and there is expectations for you to perform. But for that, you may not have all those goals because you are taking it specifically as a job. But if you are an effective leader, you must have the ability to motivate your team or your organization at this particular time. Let's use the word, even your family or your business. You must have that ability to motivate them to effectiveness to meet the goal. So there must be goal commitment. Number 3, network structure. I will speak a little bit on the network structure at some point. But when we speak about your network structure, we must look at it from a company level or a management level. Network structure is, for example, you as a leader, and I want to give this even as a bonus to some of you. You as a leader, you have your goals. You have what you want to achieve, or you have a product that you want to produce. But what's your network structures around that? Of course, we will look at how you develop network structures at some other point. I'll give this very simple example of a company that is manufacturing orange juice. A company that is manufacturing orange juice must have a company that manufactures containers. And the company that is manufacturing juice must have a relationship also with a company that is in graphics and designing and sticking labels. Because you will not sell your juice based in the cup, or you will not be distributing in the cups. Otherwise, there will be no value to it. So, in network structure, we speak about communication skills. So, an effective leader must be good, number 1, in decision making, 2, ability to motivate, 3, communication skills. I was teaching some years ago somewhere, and I said there is a difference between talking, speaking, and communicating. There are many people that talk. Can we mute our microphones, please? There's one microphone that is giving a feedback. Can we mute it? Now, I'm giving an example of communication. There's a difference between speaking, talking, and communicating. Everybody can talk. Even a child talks. But the child is not speaking. Speaking is an art which you have heard people, they teach us, even in this school, they will teach us on public speaking. Now, it's not everybody that can speak. You know, we've got people like Barack Obama. We've got people like Jacob Zuma in South Africa. We've got people like Nelson Mandela. We've got people like Frederick Chiluba in Zambia. Those were speakers. We've got also one pastor, Nevas Mumba. in Zambia, they speak. They speak. But communication is diverse. Communication is diverse. You may not be speaking, but you can communicate via many more models of or channels of communication and still achieve. So a great leader or an effective leader is a good communicator. An effective leader is a good communicator. Let me read this one quickly. So I've dealt with integrative thinking, and I'll send you these notes at some point. Once we are done, I think tomorrow morning, everybody should send these notes. And your emails, please send me your emails to the WhatsApp so that we can send everything to your email. So what is integrative thinking once again? Integrative thinking is a field which was originated by Graham Douglas in 1986. He describes integrative thinking as the process of integrating intuition, reason, and imagination in a human mind with objective to developing a holistic continuum of strategy, tactics, action, review, and evaluation. Let me repeat that again. Integrative thinking is a field which was originated by Graham Douglas, 1986. Underline that. He describes integrative thinking as the process of integrating intuition, reason, and human imagination. Objective of developing a holistic continuum of strategy, tactics, action, review, and evaluation. I already spoke about this diagram in which you are going to look at based on a conventional thinker versus integrative thinker. A conventional thinker versus integrative thinker. How a conventional thinker looks at things and how an integrative thinker looks at things. Conventional thinker, conventional thinker determining silence, analyzing casualty, environmental decision, and achieving resolutions. We will look at all that, and I will send that to you so we can all be in one place. I also spoke to you already on goal commitment. What is goal commitment? Now, I've given examples on goal commitment, how people must get them, how people will get committed to how we set our goals, and we don't get committed to it. But goal commitment is generally defined as an individual's determination to extend effort towards goal over time in order to achieve it. This was done by Lafoy and Latham, 1990. Talks about goal commitment. Therefore, what is commitment? I always say this, that goals are effective when employees understand and agree upon them. Goals are effective when employees understand and agree upon them. The goal is credible as long as the employee believe that the goal is consistent with the goal is consistent with the goal of the company. Therefore, goal commitment is difficult for us to achieve once the company and the workers are not in one place. Now, I always say this, and those of you who does courses such as MBA, you will agree with me, and those of you that have done management courses, we always say, set smart goals. Somebody says, do not work hard now, work smart. And all of us, we know that word. So I can't waste much time on that. But for the sake of those of you that have not yet done some of the advanced courses in management and leadership, let's go and look at the word smart. Let's look at the word smart. So in this case, smart simply means specific. Just give me a second. I want to check this. Must be some. Okay, somebody was coming in. Okay, smart simply means the first S, specific. Can your goal be broken into smaller steps? Okay, that's very important. Then M, which is motivational. M, which is motivational. Is it emotionally charged? Do you have the energy to carry out the goal? Now, whenever you set up the goal, there must be that zeal or that motivation that pushes you to do something. There must be that motivation that pushes you to do something and say, yes, we can. Motivate your people. Is it emotionally charged? You know, whenever you are launching something, use any project. There must be a certain emotion that has to affect that. And I think for those of you that aspire for public office, even those that are in public office or government departments, you will understand how political leaders are good at using emotional intelligence and motivation. So we must motivate. Number A, which is on SMART, A, accountable. Can your goal be tracked and be accounted for? Can your goal be tracked and be accounted for? So your goal must be, there must be accountability. There must be accountability. So you can't just have, the reason why most of our companies are failing is accountability. Let me give this example quickly. The reason why those of you who are coming from the church background, like myself and many others of you who have come from the church background, the reason why we have got a lot of nonsense in the Christian community, it's not because Christianity is confused. It's because there is a lot of, there is no accountability. There is no peer reviews. There's no a peer review mechanism around us. And so you find that there's nobody who's accountable to the other. Everybody is able to do whatever he thinks he can do. And as a result, there is no accountability. R, which is responsible. Your goals, when we talk about responsibility, will it cost you friends, respect from the family, your integrity? Is it to respond to changes if required? What are some of the responsibilities that you have to consider whenever you set the goal? What are some of the responsibilities you have to consider? Then lastly, on goal setting, and as you set your goal, is touchable. The last T is touchable. In my definition, I use the word tangibility. Is it tangible? Is it something worth it? Martin Luther King Jr. said, and I quote, if a man has not found anything worth dying for, he isn't fit to live. Now, tangibility is very key. Tangibility is very key. So as you set your goals, I would love you to look at that and make sure you work out smart. If I was in church, I would have said, tell your neighbor, be smart. Yes. So be smart leaders, be smart leaders, be smart leaders. I spoke about network structure. What is network structure? A network structure is the one which is the one in which more than one organization combine to produce a good or provide a good service. Combine to produce a good product or good service. Network structure. Remember, earlier on, I gave an example of a company that wishes to manufacture orange juice, and they have to network with others. So even as we are discussing in this class, by the end of the day, remember when we started the sessions, I jokingly, when I told each one of you to do the introduction of who you are, we have got a doctor or medical doctors in class. And remember, I was saying, if you are sick, here is a doctor. We have got lawyers here. We've got the magistrate. And I said, if you have got a crime, there is a magistrate. I think you remember that. Then we have got politicians in class, like the mayor of Kubabas. She's always here with us, Madam Alvera Tron, the former mayor now, because she's vying for vice president. Now, she has been with us here. And I said, if you're looking for a politician, here is one. We've got pastors here like Mrs. Mwila. I haven't seen her in class today. I'm not sure. Can somebody call and say, hey, you are late, you are late. You know, they are busy. Pastors' wives today, it was, somebody is trying to ask if she can come in. That is Mwenya. She's saying she's, okay, Mwenya was failing to join in. I hope that she has joined in now, okay? Yeah, so I was saying we have got pastors here, and I was joking about that. In other words, we have an entire team, but the most important thing is having a network structure. So whenever you are starting a business, have to consider network structures on what you need to do and who you need to work with to achieve your goals. My question is, remember, most of the people, they always want to work alone and they forget the network structure. An example of a network structure, which I will show you at some point, is example of network structure, a manufacturing company there. Then we have got a marketing firm. We have got a research lab there. Then we've got information and technology, which is IT. All that can be working together as one company. Let me give you this example. We are the African Institute of Leadership and Governance. We've got somebody that does the graphics to design just the posters and all that, who works with us on that. Then we've got people who can just sit back and advise. But we've got also people like Dr. Herman Bamata and the other people that you haven't yet met, who you will be meeting, who have helped to come up with a curriculum. Then we've got universities that we are working hand in hand with. Then we've got the CETA accreditations that we have to work with. So it's not just about one man, but it's about working as a team. An organization like, for example, a municipality or a council, as it is called, for it to function, it must have network structures in place. How do you get to the people? How do you work with those that are the what you call the stakeholders? Yeah, so you must have all that in place. Now, ladies and gentlemen, as I pause here for tonight, I will allow a few questions and contributions, just maybe 3. Then I bring in Mr. Lindani Lafoy, who is with us here from Mindframe, who is going to speak to us on how leadership works in the corporate space and in the public space, because he is a guru in those areas and he is busy in the Western Cape, South Africa, Zimbabwe, and other countries he is busy in that. So let me stop my screen share here and allow for you to bring in questions, comments, and contributions. I see somebody had stepped out. Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to make sure that everybody that was in class is in class. Okay, any question or contribution, please. If you are asking the question, you can put on your camera on, even if it's dark, so that it can record your face. Please go ahead. I allow comment and contribution. Yes, is that a comment that is supposed to come from Dr. Laxon? I see your mic is on mute. If you want to speak, go ahead and contribute. Okay, it seems I can't, okay. Is everything we are learning, are we understand? Yes, Madam Gertrude?
Yes, I wanted to find out, although my question is a bit funny, is it possible for one to be a leader without good public speaking skills?
Yes. The question is very good. Remember the three things I gave? I said there is a difference between talking, speaking, and communicating. Now, where is your question falling there? When you say public speaking, are you engaging into audience speaking, where platform speaking, where a person has to stand in front? Or
yeah,
person,
exactly.
Or person chairing
where
the board
a person,
meeting?
yes. Yeah, actually, it's public speaking. That's where I'm focusing.
Public speaking, all right. Yes.
Yes.
It is very possible. It is very possible for a man to be a great leader and an effective communicator, and yet not a good public speaker. Remember, there are many modalities of communication. So what is key as a leader is effective leadership. Let me give an example. Let me use a very simple example that can be familiar to everybody. Because if I use maybe, though I'll try to use also other examples in answering that question. Let's look at the scripture-wise, okay? If you come from the scripture part and you pick up a scripture somewhere in the book of Exodus, where Moses is a leader, a great leader, and a scripture is recording like God talks to him face to face, something like that. Then Moses has to lead the whole nation of Israel out of Egypt into the promised land, as it were. But here is a problem with Moses. Moses, a reference is given that he was a stammerer. But he has to communicate the vision. Okay. He has to communicate the vision. He has to speak to Pharaoh, let my people go. So he did not go as a no, you understand? He has to come up with a channel of communication which becomes so effective. I'll give this example. Since you are you are coming from the legal practice, and you are in that space. In law, when you are to pass judgment, as let's say now, it's sentencing. Sentencing has been done. What is it called? Litigation or something like that. Litigation. When now the judgment has to be given.
Mitigation.
It's called what? Litigation?
Mitigation. When you want to mitigate.
Not mitigation. Yes. When it's time for mitigation, you will ask me a question to say, Mr. Nkhoma, do you have anything to say? Then I will say, oh yeah, no, I've got a wife, I've got 20 children, wala, 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 wala. Oh, okay. Then you as a judge, you say, let's adjourn. Sorry, let me mute this other microphone. Then you say, let's adjourn for 5 minutes before we read the mitigation itself, the sentencing. So when you go there to the office or to the dock at the back, you sit and you go through.
To the chamber.
To the chamber, yeah. You go through and you make sure that if there was anything that was left out is included, or if there is any consideration of reducing the sentence or increasing, it's looked out. Then when you come back,
of leniency.
Yes, the leniency part and all that. When you come back, you will not speak, you will not memorize the thing and put it in the thing. You will have to read the judgment, which we call letter by letter. In South Africa, we call letter by letter. You will read it as slowly as possible, as accurate as possible. If there is an interpreter, he or she must interpret it. When you finish and you hand in the sentence, court rise is spoken, you walk out. What you have spoken, even if you are a stammerer, that judgment is more effective than all the argument that was taking place 6 months of the case. That day becomes more powerful. It's the day of execution, or it has been executed and judgment has been handed. After that, the case is over. What does that mean? That simply means you have communicated effectively. Let me give another example. Here is a doctor, Dr. Piri. Are you still in class? Okay. Here is Dr. Piri. Are you still in class?
Yes, I'm in class.
Okay. Here is Dr. Piri. Here I am. I am moving and I go to his surgery. And Dr. Piri looks at me and he examines me and he gets a paper and he pronounces me. He tells me that, Emmanuel Nkhoma, you are dead. Okay. If he pronounces me, Emmanuel Nkhoma, you are dead. Now, verbally, I will argue with him. No, doc, I'm still all right. Then Dr. Piri takes a pen and he writes a death certificate and he hands it over to my wife whilst I am just in the room. When you take that death certificate to Home Affairs, or is it called Home Affairs also in Zambia, the one that is responsible of dealing with that, or is it the council or Home Affairs or the hospital?
Home Affairs.
Home Affairs. Once you take in the death certificate, even if I am alive, I am considered deceased. What has made that? It's the authority that the communication has carried. So now put yourself in perspective. Let me give you an understanding, and I allowed Mr. Lafoy to come in right now. Let me give you an example. Or not an example, let me challenge you. I've given an example here of, here is a magistrate with us and a medical doctor, and we've got many leaders here. How serious the words that we speak, like I've got the pastors here and others. I didn't see Mrs. Mwila here today, but look at the pastors, how many sermons they speak and how many times they advise government. And does government take it? The answer is no. Here is a question. Here is a challenge. The Roman Catholic Church will sit down as a council and communicate a letter, maybe 2 pages or 3 or 4 pages, and they'll call it a pastoral letter. and they'll go and hand it over to government without talking much. That's leadership. Without talking much. Effectiveness. When they hand over that letter, they call it a pastoral letter to government. Government immediately will start shaking. And they would want to meet the leaders immediately. Why? Because of the effectiveness of the leaders. Now, we will come back to questions and answers. But at this point in time, I hope I've done justice to the question of effective communication. So don't limit yourself by being an orator and mistake it to being a good communicator or a good speaker. Okay, let me welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, now I would say put your hands together. You can show on the reflection there, or you can, on the reactions there, you can show my good friend and our leader for today to share with us on leadership in the corporate space and in the public space, Mr. Lindani Lafoy, who is with us right away. Mr. Lafoy, can you come on camera and can you speak to us? Over to you, sir. All right, I'm looking for Mr. Lafoy. I can see him on the screen, but I can't seem to.
Technology, say.
Technology. Yes, you can come on cameras. You know, it will be important that. All right, there he goes. All right, how are you?
Yes. Greetings, leaders. Greetings, Dr. Nkhoma. Thank you so much for such a powerful presentation. That has enlightened us so much. I enjoyed the presentation. Due to my network, I think I will have to switch off my camera at some point. I'm struggling with my bandwidth here, but as I start, I will start with it on. Greetings to the leaders as well that are here today. It's a pleasure to meet you finally.
Yes. Yeah. So Mr. Lafoy, maybe before you go on,
sir.
Let me just make a quick introduction of the class that we've got here. This is a special class of leaders that specifically most of them have come from Zambia that we recruited on a special program. And most of them that are here are in the public space, corporate, and also professionals in different fields. And many of them are concerned about leadership generally. Others here, I think we've got political, others have got political ambitions. And I thought you can come on because, of course, we have shared this to you, but I'm just doing it for the sake of those. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the gentleman that is going to present to us, he's done very extensively in terms of leadership development within the continent of Africa, and is one of the respected leaders that we have. We are working together. And so it is, I want you to treasure this moment as he speaks to us. The reason I had to do this quickly is because I don't want him to waste time to start doing his own introduction, but I'd want him just to dive into the material and go ahead. Yeah, so over to you, sir, once again. I will mute myself. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Nkhoma. All the leaders greeted. Let me start by saying that we do have a challenge of leadership. It's not only a continental challenge, but it is definitely a global challenge. There is what I call a leadership gap between the organizations that we have, the people that we have. That is a huge gap when you look at the number of people that are living in this planet and looking at the number of leaders that are trained, that are equipped to lead the organizations, be it in the public space, be it in the corporate space, be it in the religious space, in the industrial space, whichever space that you may imagine. We have that gap of leadership deficiency, especially in our continent. Therefore, I think it is befitting also to congratulate you for being part of this class, because as you are equipped, it means that you shall be able to be better leaders in the space where you find yourselves. I will talk on two fronts, leadership in general, and then leadership in the corporate space. Leadership in general, I will just highlight some things, but I will focus on leadership in the corporate space. And of the points that I'll be bringing on that front or on that angle, I will focus on 3 points, and then I will wrap my presentation. I hope that I have around 20 minutes. Is that so, Dr. Nkhoma?
Yes, please, go ahead. Yes.
Thank you. So leadership in general, it refers to the ability of an individual or a group to guide or inspire and influence others towards a common goal or vision. It also involves a combination of skills, qualities, and behaviors that enable individuals to effectively manage and motivate others. And also it can manifest in various contexts, including business, politics, academia, sports, and community organizations. That is leadership in general. And that leadership in general, it involves some of the few things that I will outline. The first thing, when we're talking on general leadership or leadership in general, you firstly have to know that that includes or involves a vision, the vision. And we know that a vision is a clear and compelling a vision of the future that inspires others and provides direction for action and decisions. Without that vision, that general leadership will be affected. Secondly, it's communication, strong communication skills to articulate that vision, the goals, the expectations, and clearly listen actively to others concerning that very vision for your leadership. And thirdly, it will include integrity, which is acting with honesty and transparency. We know that we have a lot of integrity issues in our continent especially, but general leadership, it should include integrity. And empathy, that's number 4. And number 5, decisiveness. Number 6, adaptability. Number 7, empowerment, inspiration, collaboration, and continuous learning. So those 10 attributes I give to the leadership in general. But you'll find that there's an overlapping between that leadership in general and the leadership in the corporate space, as you will find out just now. There is a serious overlapping in the two or amongst the two. So in general also, leadership can take many forms. There will be a form of a visionary and charismatic leadership. There's a form of servant leadership. There's a form of transformational leadership. And regardless of those styles or forms, effective leaders, they often share a common goal of positively influencing others and making a meaningful impact on their organizations, on their communities, and on their societies. So that is leadership in general. Now, I want to go to the main focus of tonight, or of my presentation. The main focus of my presentation is the leadership in the corporate space. Dr. Nkhoma rightly mentioned this, that also when you are referring to the corporate space, you cannot leave the public space in the form of politicians, in the form of people running and leading NGOs who are affecting our society. So when we're talking of leadership in the corporate space, we are encompassing and we are framing all such organizations and leaders in that space. So in the corporate world, a leadership often involves guiding and managing teams within a business or organization to achieve strategic objectives, to maximize performance and to drive growth. And then corporate leaders, they typically operate within a hierarchical structure and are responsible for making key decisions that impact the company's success. So there is a slight difference between leadership in general. When it is focused on the corporate space, it will include some key elements of that leadership. I will just throw 10, but I will focus on 3 so that we also get the case studies of those 3 elements. Firstly, as opposed to just a general vision, but when you come to a corporate space, it is a strategic vision. It becomes a strategic vision. Corporate leaders, they must have a clear vision of where they want the company to go and develop strategies to achieve long-term goals. And also that vision, the strategic vision, should provide the direction and should inspire the employees and the team members to align their efforts towards common objectives. That is a strategic vision. In other words, the strategic vision is a vision that speaks of the future, that speaks of the long term. That is why it is called strategic. That is why it is called strategic. Number 2, it involves the aspect of decision making. And the decision making, in the decision making, leaders, they incorporate settings. They incorporate settings that make critical decisions under pressure. This involves analyzing data, considering various perspectives, and weighing risks and benefits to make informed choices that benefit organizations. See, analyzing data is not an easy thing. When we were talking, I was talking to another group earlier last week about, we were talking on strategic planning, that you cannot make decisions without the proper data at your disposal. We'll find out later on the case studies that there are companies or there are organizations that failed to analyze their data properly, and that led to the compromised integrity of their brands, the compromised integrity in the market. So the third element in the leadership in the corporate space is communication. I'm not going to dwell much on this one because Dr. Nkhoma has effectively communicated it. But I want to just highlight that effective communication is essential for corporate leaders to convey their vision, their goals, and expansion and expectations to their employees or to their team members, to their shareholders, to their stakeholders. Clear and transparent communication, it fosters trust, it fosters alignment, it fosters engagement among team leaders or team members. Without proper communication, leadership in the corporate space will be very frustrating. And number 4, team building. In the corporate space, corporate leaders are responsible for assembling and developing high-performing teams. You are responsible for assembling and developing your teams. This includes recruiting talent. It includes fostering collaboration. It includes providing coaching and mentorship. It includes creating a positive work environment that encourages creativity and innovation. In other words, effective teams create effective work. Dream teams produce dream work. So the team building is part of the leadership in the corporate space. If the business or if that corporate organization fails in this regard, it becomes difficult to disseminate the vision, to sift it down to the lowest in the pyramid, to the lowest in the hierarchy in that organization. And number 5, the change management. This aspect of change management, like in today's fast-paced business environment, corporate leaders, you must be adept to managing change. Change is one of the most difficult things to manage, but it needs to be managed in the corporate space. I can just throw one example that I'm remembering, of a company called Nokia. Some of us, they know that this company was once one of the best producers of mobile phones, and they owned such reliable brands and loved brands such as the BlackBerry, but they failed to manage change. They failed to adapt to market trends. They failed to adapt to technological advancements. They failed to adapt to organizational restructuring. So as leaders, we need to navigate transitions effectively. In the space of the corporate leadership, we need to be able to manage change and transitions effectively. And that minimizes disruptions, and that also minimizes resistance. And number 6, it's accountability. Accountability is one aspect of the leadership in the corporate space. At accountability, leaders in the corporate space, or in the corporate world, they must hold themselves and others accountable for results. And Dr. Nkhoma also mentioned this in his presentation. And this involves setting clear expectations, establishing performance metrics, providing feedback, and addressing issues promptly to ensure accountability at all levels of the organization. I want you to underline the word promptly. It means you do not wait after discovering that the organization is going off track. You don't wait until it is miles off track. You deal with the derailers the instant they come forth. You do not wait. You deal with them. That's accountability. You deal with derailers as soon as they pop up. You deal with such things that will derail the organization from reaching or from going towards the direction of fulfilling the vision and the mission of your organization. You deal with them promptly, because the danger of not dealing with them promptly is that people, they easily adapt to anything that they can do unchallenged, that they can drive unchallenged. If it is stealing in the company or in the business, you do not wait until they have stolen millions before you address that issue. If it is the lack of attendance, if it's absenteeism that is prevalent in the business, you deal with it promptly before you find yourself having half of the employees coming to work on a particular day. And number 7 is stakeholder management. the corporate leaders must balance the needs and expectations of various stakeholders, including employees, customers, investors, regulators, and communities. I know you might think we shared the notes with Dr. Nkhoma because it seems that our notes are overlapping. He mentioned this, that if you are a company that produces a product, you need to manage the stakeholders. You need to have the people that are also involved in the production of that product. I've been involved in the executive management of one company that is in 7 countries here in Africa. I've been involved in the executive management. We're producing cosmetics, starting from the soap, the tissue oil, the lotion, and all these skin products. And then we moved also to add the hairline. So this company, we had the stakeholders, including our suppliers. The stakeholder list was over 115. We had 115 stakeholders, excluding our employees. 115 stakeholders that needed to be managed. And when we managed those stakeholders properly, our business was thriving. But there was a time when we failed to manage our relationship with the stakeholders, and that could be reflected on the business, that could be reflected on the sales, that could be reflected on the brand identity, the way people saw our brand, because there was that gap, there was that hiccup in that stakeholder management. And number 8, the ethical leadership. Ethical leadership should be part of the corporate space, of the corporate leadership space. And upholding ethical standards and integrity is paramount for corporate leaders to earn trust and maintain credibility. Ethical lapses, they can damage the credibility. Ethical lapses, they can damage and undermine employee morale. They can lead to legal and financial consequences, because if you fail to uphold ethical principles, that is what happens. I'll just give you a couple of international case studies in a bit. And number 9, continuous learning should be part of the corporate leadership, or leadership in the corporate space. Continuous learning. I mentioned the company Nokia. They failed to uphold this aspect of leadership, or of corporate leadership. They failed to uphold it, and that led to the downward spiral of their business, which even affected the whole company internationally, bringing it to closure, because they failed to seek opportunities to expand their knowledge, to acquire new skills, and to stay abreast of industry trends and best practices, so that they could remain competitive in their dynamic business environment. And lastly, it's results orientation. Results orientation is one aspect of corporate leadership. Ultimately, corporate leaders are judged by their ability to deliver results, right? Whether it's achieving financial targets, whether it's driving revenue growth or improving operational efficiency, leaders must focus on measurable outcomes and take action to deliver value to shareholders and to stakeholders. So in the corporate world, effective leadership is critical. It's critical for driving organizational success, for fostering a culture of innovation and excellence, for creating value for all stakeholders. Now, let me give you, in the next 7 minutes, let me give you the case studies on these 3 points. The first point that I want us to delve in is the ethical lapses that resulted in reputational damages for some corporations. I will just bring. I have an example of 5 here, but maybe I'll just touch on the 3 that of the 3 companies that I think we might be familiar with. The first company, okay, it's Enron Corporation. I don't think many of us they know about that. But in 2015, we can remember VW Volkswagen. Volkswagen, in 2015, they admitted to installing a software in millions of their diesel vehicles designed to cheat emissions tests. So they admitted that, no, we put this device there, and that device, that software is mainly designed to cheat the emissions tests. To cheat the emissions test. And that scandal, it not only led to massive recalls and billions of dollars in fines and settlements, but it also tarnished VW's reputation for environmental stewardship and corporate integrity. And you know how that links to the UN and the AU resolutions concerning the emissions. And the second company that you might be well aware of that failed on the ethical leadership is Facebook. Facebook has faced several ethical controversies related to user privacy, you know, the issues of data breaches and the spread of misinformation on its platforms, and the Cambridge, what was that? Was it Cambridge Analytica, the Cambridge Analytica scandal in 2018, where personal data from millions of Facebook users were harvested for political purposes, which led to widespread criticism, regulatory scrutiny, and erosion of trust in the company because they failed in this critical part, which is ethical leadership. And one company that I cannot leave out here is the Boeing jets. Following the two fatal, it's very recent, following two fatal crashes involving their 737 MAX aircraft in 2018 and 2019. I'm sure you remember those crashes. Boeing, they faced scrutiny over their safety practices and regulatory oversight. Investigations revealed flaws in their designs and the certifications of the aircraft, as well as failures in communication and transparency. And the crisis damaged Boeing's reputation as a leader in aviation safety, and it led to significant financial losses and regulatory sanctions, which made their main competitors, Airbus of France, which made them to push and boost their sales effectively in that season. So we will see that the lapse in the ethical space, in the ethical leadership, can ruin the reputation of your organization, can ruin the reputation of your company, of your brand, of your organization, and of your name as a leader. But secondly, I'm just going to pull out one other aspect of leadership, of corporate leadership, where corporate organizations that were severely affected by the lack of results orientation and measurable outcomes. Measurable outcomes. In Africa here, there have been instances where corporate organizations have faced challenges due to a lack of results orientation and measurable outcomes. Lapo, we are talking about in South Africa, companies like Eskom, the state-owned electricity utility here in South Africa. They have faced numerous challenges, including financial mismanagement, corruption, operational inefficiencies, and the utility's inability to generate sufficient revenue to cover its costs, coupled with a lack of investment in infrastructure and maintenance, has resulted in frequent power outages and disruptions to business to businesses and households. The lack of results orientation and accountability in Eskom's management has contributed to its ongoing financial and operational struggles. So you see, these are real life examples in the corporate space. And then secondly, is then in Nigeria, for instance, we have a Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC. They are a state-owned oil company in Nigeria, and they have been plagued by allegations of corruption, mismanagement, lack of transparency for decades. It's out there. Their problem is their accounting practices and failure to publish audited financial reports, which also feeds to that lack of results orientation and measurable outcomes. So we have other examples, like I'm not going to say all of them, like SAA, South African Airways. They have been bailed now and again, getting bailouts and restructured, CEO after CEO, same as Eskom in South Africa, CEO after CEO, but nothing has changed, nothing has. And lastly, the case study of African corporate organizations that lacked the key aspect of team building. I want you to notice this one, because team building seems like it's one of the minor things that even a small company can invest in. But you'll be surprised to see that even the great conglomerates, the great companies, organizations, they miss the importance. They miss the importance of this aspect, key aspect of team building. Look, for instance, in this case study of MTN in Nigeria again. They are a leading communications company in Nigeria, but they faced challenges in 2018 when the Nigerian government accused the company of illegally repatriating $8.1 billion in profits out of the country. And the disputes with the Nigerian authorities, coupled with the regulatory fines and penalties, stained MTN's reputation with the government and affected their operations. You know the story, but the problem there was the lack of team building. The lack of effective team building and stakeholder management within the company may have contributed to the escalation of the crisis and its impacts on their business in Nigeria. And moving to the Central Africa, the Kenya Airways is another case study where they experienced financial difficulties and operational challenges in recent years. They struggled to compete effectively in the global aviation market. Their challenges were coupled with high operating costs and debt levels that led to significant losses and frequent changes in leadership, all because they undermined this key aspect of team building. I cannot repeat the same, which is Eskom. And lastly, the Nairobi Securities Exchange, NSE. You know the story. They are a principal stock exchange in Kenya, but they failed. They faced criticism for their slow growth and limited liquidity compared to other exchanges in the region. Actually, even compared to even the exchange in Rwanda, which is a fairly smaller economy as compared to Kenya. But despite the efforts to attract new listings and improve market infrastructure, that NSE, the Nairobi Securities Exchange, has struggled to achieve significant expansion and diversification. This also may have been caused by the lack of effective teamwork and collaboration among stakeholders, including listed companies themselves. It's like everyone is doing their own thing. There is no single vision for the NSE. There is no one drive for the NSE. Each company, they are found in their small pockets, so which also played a very big role in that in the losses of the NSE. So as I close, let me just give a highlight or the summary on what I've just presented. I provided a comprehensive overview of leadership, covering both general principles and their application in the corporate world, with a focus on Africa. I also highlighted key aspects of effective leadership, including vision, communication, integrity, empathy, decisiveness, adaptability, empowerment, inspiration, collaboration, continuous learning, and result orientation. I also supported my points with relevant case studies demonstrating the consequences of ethical lapses, the consequences of the lack of results orientation, and the consequences of ineffective team building in African corporate organization. And through these examples, I also emphasized the importance of ethical conduct, accountability, transparency, and teamwork in achieving organizational success and maintaining stockholder trust. Overall, my presentation it effectively underscored the essential role of leadership in driving positive outcomes in your organizations and fostering a culture of integrity and collaboration, and also creating value for organizations and communities. And also, I believe that it provided valuable insights and lessons for all leaders in this leadership class. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. I think, guys, we can, let's give a round of applause. I think, yes, thank you, Gertrude, thank you. We can share those reactions and yeah, all right.
Yes, and I want to apologize because I couldn't share my slides. I was supposed to share my slides.
No,
technology is the issue of ESCOM. ESCOM issue is tampering with my Wi-Fi.
Just before you go, maybe before you came in, like even myself, I'm in the dark at the moment. We have no electricity. That's why I had to move from my office and come into the studio and broadcast from the studio side because we have no electricity. And the example of ESCOM in terms of ethical leadership and failure of accountability was just one of them. Now, okay, those of you guys in Zambia who are with us on this platform today, you can unmute your microphones and you can come on camera if you can. You can see that the challenges of Africa are intertwined. The challenges of Africa are intertwined. As we are speaking, okay, let me first mute, then I'll take you in for questions just now. Please don't go. We will be finishing off just now, but let's go into, if you are shy to ask questions audibly, remember you are a leader, even if you are a stammerer, feel free to ask your question audibly. I know that some of you can type in the comment section, but it will be wise for us to also speak so we can get to know each other more. Now, the notes that have been given out today, they'll be sent out to all of you that are here, and you will be able to get them better, because I was struggling also. I don't know why my screen share was misbehaving. Whenever I wanted to broadcast it so that it can be full, it was shutting down. I don't know what could have caused that. I would also say that when you look at the presentations from where we began from in this module 2 to where we have closed up onto this discussion today, many of you are feeling like, okay, I think you could feel that you are in class. I think you could feel that we are learning. And I will give you out questions because I love feedback, and the questions will be based on all these things that we are discussing. So let's hope you were taking notes, you didn't sleep and you leave your phone on and you are sleeping, because not everything will be in the notes. I know what Rita Siafunko, Maureen Sakala, Mwenya Kabonde, and who else I'm seeing here? The rest of you, I know what you're capable of doing, all of you here, that you can switch off. You know, people on Zoom, I know what people do. They switch on the thing and they go to sleep. But listen, you are not here to sleep. We are here to work. We are working to develop you and become a better leader. I want to make sure that your efforts, they pay off. I would give this example, then we take questions. I hope you are preparing a few questions behind you, and maybe you can make a comment or contribution. I give this as a bonus to people like Dr. Piri and those of you that are in private practice and even those in public. Look at the ethical leadership that failed in South Africa when it came to COVID-19, the Department of Health. The Department of Health, when it came to COVID-19, imagine people were stealing masks. Face masks were stolen. What you call that thing? They were washing their hands. Sanitizers were stolen. The bags for packing in corpse, you know, those bags for putting in dead bodies, all that were going missing in the Department of Health. And we have seen these flaws in terms of accountability, because lack of accountability. Then the other thing, which Mr. Lafoy did not speak about, which I would say it publicly, is in public leadership, where we have leaders that don't want to be accountable, even to both ruling party and opposition parties. Once you have an opposition that wants to hold the ruling into account, they are treated as enemies. You know, there are those kind of things. Then the other part that I wanted to emphasize on, being ready for change management. Of course, Dr. Trost from the United Kingdom is going to teach us on change management, because he teaches that at the University of Oxford, and is going to teach us on change management. But look at the example that was given tonight on Nokia. Remember, it's not only on Nokia. Nokia today, it's there, but it couldn't catch up. Look at the examples of change management. BlackBerry. BlackBerry went into a crash because, simple thing, they had their own app called BBM. They had their own app called BBM, which you could only communicate with a person with a fellow BBM. Then it failed up. Today, we have got WhatsApp and all that, it couldn't work. They had a program called Mixit or something like that, and as SMS services. It couldn't catch up and it collapsed. I'll give an example again on integrity and leadership. When you look at the example he gave today of Facebook, I don't know how many of you are on Facebook, and do you know what happened last week? Facebook, last week, globally, it was hacked. The whole world. It was hacked, and I was wondering the whole day Facebook was not working. And by the end of the day, the time that Facebook came on, we did not receive any apology from Mark Zuckerberg to say, oh, no, this is what happened. We apologize for the inconvenience caused. So you guys who are running—
lack of accountability.
Lack of accountability. So you guys who are running your companies, your small businesses, and so on and so forth, have a comment section at the end where your stakeholders are able to report back if they are pleased with your services or they are not. Otherwise, I will stop commenting right there and allow you to also come on and make your comments. Anybody who is ready to give the first submission, please. Hello, somebody, can anybody first submission?
Yeah. Whilst they are still coming in, Dr. Nkhoma.
Yes.
You mentioned the case study of COVID-19 in South Africa. And I can say this without hesitation, that some of the money that was lost some of the money that did not go to proper use, it came to me. I will tell you why, without mentioning names.
Yeah.
I was employed by this department. I was hired, my organization, Mindframe Institute. We were hired to come up with a plan. It wasn't a lot of money, though. Don't think billions. It wasn't a lot of money, but we were hired. We came up with a plan of how to properly distribute under the strains of the system due to the COVID troubles. The plan was there. Even it included the financial avenues of how and when and where should the suppliers be paid, and how, and it went also to the logistics of the products or the equipments that you were talking about that were stolen. So they paid for our services for that, and we did that. It was not my organization only, there were a couple of others. So they paid for the services. After the paying for the services, then they did not apply the recommendations that we came with. So that is the first loss of money. So it's like, you guys, you are telling us what to do, but we already know what to do. You were just a front so that we'll seem like responsible people.
Yeah. So any comment, please, on our today's discussion on leadership, both in the corporate space and in the public space, as we have discussed. Yes. Anybody else? Unmute yourself if you want to speak. Okay. Dr. Laxon, are you speaking there?
Yeah, I just want to first applaud, I think, the two of you. I think the way you have managed the class. And put a comment to say, I think the feedback for me as a learner is that the combinations that you brought to the fore are very, very critical, I think, for Africa. I'll give an example of our scenario here in Zambia. That even when the class was going on, you could see the combinations of this as lacking in so many areas where I think corporate entities and I think governance in general sort of poses this as a question. I'll give an example where ethical values, accountability, and so on were not managed in terms of the maize stock in Zambia. And because the maize stock in Zambia is not managed because people lacked, I think, ethical values and could not predict well, I think, the trends in orientation and the results that would come. We go into a situation where we have now a mini-meal crisis, but at the same time, you begin to have questions. I'm beginning to have questions to say, okay, disaster, we've declared the national crisis in terms of the maize, and we begin now to import the maize. But as long as these measures are not put in place in public, I think, leadership, we are still at zero, and the case crises of the COVID-19, where almost all African countries actually experience the same thing of just abuse of resources. So we are going to see a situation where you are importing maize, but there is still abuse because we've not learned a lesson to close these gaps that have been brought out today. So for me, it's a very thought-provoking situation that we have a lot to do, I think, in leadership. And if we do not continuously learn, I think then we are setting a very bad example, I think, for posterity. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so very much for that comment. It becomes difficult for me to really answer it effectively, to say what's the way forward when leadership crisis like that is seen. But the solution for me is what we are doing here. The solution is what we are doing here. We are starting up a class, and Mr. Lafoy knows that what we are doing here in South Africa, let me just give you an example. And I want you guys to take advantage of this. Look at this, what's going on. This is the year of elections. And my good friend is consulting with a different political party. They are going to do learning as we are speaking. Now, myself also, okay, me, I speak publicly about this because I've worked around these things. So one of my brothers was telling me, don't you fear to be killed? Because in South Africa, they kill you. Look at where we are in South Africa. I've had the time to consult with the then former President Zuma. I think Mr. Lindani knows that. Now, President Zuma left. Then I have been consulting with the IFP. And the IFP, of course, the late Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi has died, but still the IFP is moving in. As I'm speaking right now, we've been busy trying to put certain things with these new people that have come up called the Umkhonto Wesizwe. Now, the issue is, when I looked at the IFP strategy last Saturday, they filled up a 50,000-seater stadium. And it looks like they are putting things in practice, and also in terms of accountability and all that. But countries like Zambia, where you are, Mr. Malombola, the challenge is most of the African governments are not open to learning. Now, one of the results, or one of the effective continuous learning, will produce effective leadership, continuous learning. And I am proud to have people here like Madame Gertrude and Alvera Throne and many others that are in leadership. Like, for example, she is a magistrate. She is sitting in class as a magistrate. We are putting up, because we are speaking to a lot of mayors, and today I've been trying to get out of the number for the mayor of Kitwe. We've got another mayor in Uganda, another mayor somewhere. So we want to bring these mayors, municipal mayors, in one class like this. We want to bring, but you will see that most of these African, others, they resist learning. They feel, no, I'm too big to learn. Until it crashes on them, they are kicked out of power. When they are kicked out of power, then they want to learn, which is unfortunate. I feel that learning must constantly be worked on. There is a comment in a comment section by Chungu Joseph. Joseph Chungu, I don't seem to get it to the last. Knowledge seems to be there, but the executive, how can we as African leaders combine the two, especially while in office? Then I didn't see the last part. So Joseph Chungu, can you come on and elaborate further maybe on your question, if possible? Even if you don't come on the camera, but if you can switch on your mic and ask it, elaborate. We want to finish the class in the next 5 minutes, but maybe you can speak on that. We want to make sure that
thank you very much, Doc, for the opportunity. My point is most of the leaders that we have got, when they are told to come on board and explain what they have to offer, they do it efficiently and effectively. But when it comes to putting out what they have said into action, it becomes an issue. So if we as African leaders were to improve on that one, how would we go about it?
Okay, anybody who may want to respond, please, apart from us as presenters tonight, anybody from the class who may want to respond on that. How do we, in other words, what Joseph is saying, we don't have a problem with public speakers in Africa or communicators, but when it comes to implementation, how do we, anybody who can come on that before I allow maybe Mr. Lafoy to come on. Okay, let me take it to Mr. Lindani. What you say? What's your take on that? Implementation.
one of the challenges we have, the leadership gap that I mentioned when I was starting my presentation, is caused by the arrogance of leaders. Because knowledge is there, as my brother is saying, but when it comes to implementation, it doesn't happen. It seems like what we know and what we know we need to achieve and what we desire to achieve are two different ends. We know what should be done, but once we are in office, we don't do what should be done. We do what will benefit us. That is why such aspects and views such as accountability are very important. Because if you're not accountable to anyone, there's nothing that you will implement. There's nothing that you will execute, because nobody's going to ask you anything. Nobody's going to question why it did not happen. Nobody's going to punish you for why you did not do what you're supposed to do. So the lack of accountability is one angle that is hitting us so hard in that area. It's like you can do whatever you need, even though you know whatever you want, even though you know what needs to be done. So the major challenge in this is accountability.
Thank you. The other thing that I may just add on is having to bridge the gap between yourself as a company or your organization with the stakeholders, not the shareholders, but the stakeholders. I wouldn't want to dive so much into public office at the moment. Let me give this example of saying, let's say you start up a business. The way you treat your clientele at the beginning of your business and 5 months or 6 months later, how consistent is it? Remember, in my presentation earlier on, I spoke on goal commitment. How committed do you remain to your goal? There is a book that we will share a little bit more, which talks about how you can govern and remaining in leadership or in authority for a long time, which helps you to understand to say, leadership, whilst we speak about governance and we speak about all these things, it's intertwined. It's intertwined. And examples have been given tonight, which you can look at, starting from the automobile, start going to the financial sector. There is a bank in South Africa, which I would give an example. It was called the VBS Bank. Look at how their monies of the people, monies of the poor, how it just went disappearing. Those of you that were in Zambia in 1990, is it 94 or 96? There was a bank called Meridian BIL Bank. Meridian Bank, people lost money. People cried when it was liquidated. Why? Because they did not get ready to adapt to change. They were also not preparing themselves for crisis. So, whereas you as leaders in this class, we want you to prepare for everything, because that is why it's called applied leadership. This program is called applied leadership. So the examples we are giving you, they are not just theoretical. They are not just
Yes.
they are researched and they have gone through the process. I'm not sure if I've got any question, because we have almost coming to a close of today's session. Anybody? Madam Gertrude, is that your hand there?
Yes, Doc. Actually, I'm very, very happy, and I appreciate the teachings that you've given us today. Now, my focus is actually, Mr. Lafoy actually touched part of it. It's on point number 6, accountability. Apart from sitting on the bench, I ran a school, a nursery up to primary. Yeah. So I am a sole proprietor, and I have nowhere to report actually. So when he was talking of accountability, it's like I have no one to actually talk into my life. But yeah, so it's really, when he was actually teaching, I actually looked at myself to say, actually, I'm actually in a danger zone. I need to ask really what I must do. Right now, I'm alone.
Yeah.
And I have 2 jackets, working on the bench as well as running that business.
Yeah. Before Mr. Lafoy maybe replies to that, I would give an example. Some years ago, I had a meeting with Dr. Nevas Mumba of Zambia, the former vice president, and he gave us a story which I cannot forget. Dr. Nevas Mumba said one day he had gone for a cabinet meeting at State House, where the president then, the late President Mwanawasa, was to chair the cabinet. So the president was stuck on something, and he needed an input from his cabinet. So President Mwanawasa humbly requested, and he said, ladies and gentlemen, we have this crisis, and I need your wisdom on this. So one member of parliament, who was a minister, I will not mention his name, he might be your uncle, he responded and told the president, he said, Your Excellency, sir, you know, out of all this group that you sit on this table, do you think there is anyone wiser than you? Then he asked Dr. Nevas Mumba, I said, even you, Your Honor, the Vice President, Dr. Mumba, do you think you can be able to advise our president? So it's the real thing. I sit down with many leaders of different corporate organizations and many companies who are running businesses, institutions, organizations. And the challenge of that accountability pyramid is one of the serious issues. So thank God that we've got this pool now, and yes, we will be able to find ways and means to link you. That is why I just gave you an example where we are gathering all these municipal mayors, the mayors from different towns, countries, and we want them on one pool so that they can start talking, because our problems in the continent are similar and they are intertwined. So just like you say, you are running a position of a CEO somewhere, and you have got these issues, challenges that you need, we may need to bring in on board a number of people that you can also network with at that level. Yeah, I don't know, Mr. Lafoy, any sentiment on that, or if you need to respond?
Yes, sir. I think it's let me first applaud my leader for looking into herself concerning this. Because when we talk of accountability, like myself, it's my organization. You know, I could have called it Lafoy, whatever. It's my organization. It's my vision. It's what I do. But since I am the top guy in my organization, I had to surround myself with my team. My team are my accountability board, because I cannot do whatever I like. Dr. Nkhoma, he knows, like when he asks me, when he needs me anywhere, like today, I will say to him, give me 30 minutes or give me an hour, I will get back to you. Because I have to be accountable to the team that I've set around myself, marketing-wise, advisory, and my PA who manages my calendar. Those people are my accountability partners, so that I won't find myself making decisions. Some of the decisions that I make, I have to run via them, even though I am the president. Like in the example that Dr. EJ has brought, I have to come to them and have a second eye to look into the validity, into the feasibility of the idea that I need to run by. Because, by the way, they're the ones who must make that idea happen. So I think you need to surround yourself, bring your team together or closer to you, so that they will be your accountability. Doesn't mean that you report to them. No, it doesn't mean that. They still report to you, but as a team, they give you a second eye or a second perspective on the decisions, or on some, not all, on some of the decisions that you make in the business.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, unless there is any burning issue, Wahaitsu, Siabonga, thank you very much for today's interaction. It has been a great class. You have been intact, you have been listening, and I'm still looking for your more participation. Mwenya, Ms. Mkandawire, Maureen Sakala, I want to hear your voices next week, next Thursday.
I have to sign out. Thank you very much.
Yes,
we'll talk after the meeting.
Sure.
Thank you so much, leaders. Thank you.